Okay, welcome back. This is a continuation video to the Soda Bottle Project Introduction. There's a few things that I mentioned in the first video that I wanted to show you that students typically will get caught up on or confused about, so I want to go over those with you today. Some of those things include how to type basic text, how to draw this straw right here, how to easily create this label, and how to draw this orange. Those are just some of the things that I want to cover with you. Now, before I jump into those topics, I want you to remember that I told you in the first video to work smart, not hard, right? Use the shape tools that you know to draw things like this ellipse and these thin lines, which are actually rounded rectangles. Use those skills instead of having to rely on your pen tool for everything. Are you going to have to use your pen tool for things like this soda bottle? Of course, we don't have a soda bottle shape tool. You have to draw that with the pen. But work smart. Remember, you can use stroke and fill for this project. All right, so let's start with basic text. Now, we've not really talked about text yet. We will soon for one of our next projects, but I'm going to just show you the very basics. First things first, this font, this nice cursive soda bottle font, does not exist on your computer. So your label will not look exactly like this one. I want you to choose a similar font. So the tool that we're going to use is over here in our tool panel. It looks like the letter T, and it's called your type tool. Click on it. In order to type, all you have to do is single click. You'll see this filler text that says lorem ipsum. All you have to do is push backspace and you can start typing. So all I'm going to do is type soda. Notice I'm paying attention to capitalization here because it's capitalized on the soda bottle. And then I'm going to grab my black arrow. Now, I can do a couple things. I can grab my eyedropper and grab the orange color. And I can also change the font. So over here in my character window, I can adjust my font. I can either use this drop-down menu to choose a font that's similar, or I can click where it says the current font name, which is Myriad Pro. When it's highlighted blue, I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard to scroll through my fonts to see which one I like. Okay. So I'm just going to use my drop down. There are little previews here, and I'm going to choose something that's going to be kind of similar. Again, it may not be exactly the same. Okay, this is the closest one I can find on my computer. Now, this one has kind of a little drop shadow effect. So I'm going to copy and paste or alt drag to duplicate. And then I'm going to use my eyedropper to grab this cream kind of color. Now, what happens if I put this word back on top? It's backwards, right? It's on top. So I need to right-click, right-click, arrange, send to back. I can use my arrow keys to adjust this to make it go to the bottom right? So that's kind of similar to how it looks. And again, it may be helpful to click and drag over both of these and group them together. You can say right-click, and sometimes group doesn't show up for some reason. You can go to Object, Group, or the shortcut, which is Control-G. That's what I normally do, Control-G. And then I can move this over my bottle, and I can rotate it. I'm not going to put it over there because it's going to be hard to see, right? It's tough to see. Same thing. You should have the word refreshing. You should have the word orange. You should have this little orange on your label. Okay, so that's basic text. That's all I want you to worry about for this. Now, let's talk about this straw. Students have a hard time lining up their shapes for this. And I'm going to show you an easy way to make it perfect, okay? And it starts with your pen tool. So let's grab our pen tool. And I'm going to take all my colors out because I like to draw without any stroke or fill. If you like to draw with a stroke color, you're welcome to have it, but I'm not going to use it. Now, starting at a corner, like we normally do when we draw, I am going to draw the straw, just this top half before it hits the liquid. And I'm going to make it a complete shape. And there it is. Now I'm going to grab my line segment tool, and I'm going to draw, click and drag, all the way across my straw so that I have a little bit of extra line on either side. Okay, you can do this a bunch of times across your straw, or like I like to do is just draw it once and then alt drag. Notice it looks like they're disappearing, like I can't see them. Why is that? That's because I don't have any color in them right now. And I'm not really that worried about it because they're not going to stay there anyway. I just need to know that they're there because I'm duplicating them. They should all be there. If not, I'll have a problem. That'll be embarrassing. Okay, I'm just going to do this all the way down to the bottom. So I have a line at every single time the color changes. I'm having a line segment all the way across my straw. Okay. Being careful to make sure that the line segment goes beyond my big rectangle shape that I just created with my pen. Okay, here we go. I'm just copying and pasting my way down. All right, there's the last one. So I've got it all drawn. If I use my black arrow and I click and drag over it, you can see there's my overall big rectangle shape, and all of my lines go all the way across. All right. Now, we're going to use our Pathfinder window. Mine's over here. If yours does not show up, we're going to go to Window, Pathfinder, and make sure there's a blue check next to it so that it opens up. Sometimes it pops up down here. Right, there's my Pathfinder window, so make sure you look down here in the corner. And I'm just going to drag it over to make a tab so that I don't have to go looking for it. Now there's a lot of options in here. We're going to use the bottom left one that says divide. Okay, when you click that, all those extra pieces of line segment are going to disappear. And everything's grouped together. So I have to ungroup this, right click, ungroup. And now I have a bunch of shapes. Okay, so I'm going to hold shift and click all of the yellow shapes. I can use my eyedropper and I can grab the correct yellow. I can do the same thing for my tan shapes by holding shift and clicking to select more than one. I end up with an easier way to eyedropper the correct tan color. Now let's go back to our layers and show our background. And there's my straw. Obviously I have some more shapes that need to be colored, but notice how perfect those line up. That's probably the easiest way to draw the straw. So if that was confusing, you need to go back and rewatch it. Okay, you can rewind. Now, the next thing that I was going to show you was this label. Again, layering of objects is important. And the first video I showed you that you can use a square, right? Click and drag to draw a perfect square. You can hold shift. I'm going to rotate this. Essentially, this is a square on a 45-degree angle. And it's actually 3 squares overlapping. All right, so I'm going to draw the first one, and I'm going to put an outline on it. Copy and paste. Resize this. Right, so I'm going to draw my dark blue square. And then I need a third square for this inside line right here. Right. Once I draw these, if I draw them in that order, they're going to line up perfectly and I'm going to get the right colors. If I don't draw them in that order, I'm going to have to rearrange the order of my objects. Okay, so I'm just going to recolor these so that they look correct. And you'll notice one thing that's off. Look at the corners here. They're supposed to go straight. So let's select our squares, and I'm going to use the eraser tool. Okay, this is the eraser tool right here. It's in your tool panel. It's kind of down and to the right of your rectangle tool. And it really erases in circles, but we don't want to do that. So I'm going to Control Z, undo. We're going to hold the Alt key. And by holding the Alt key when we use our eraser tool, it's going to create a square. So I can use this to trim, right? Alt, holding Alt and clicking and dragging. I can use this to trim my label so that it is the perfectly correct shape. Let's put our background back on. Do you see how that happened? So, holding Alt and clicking and dragging to make sure that you can trim in a straight line. This is handy. You'll use this all semester. That's a really handy tip. Right? Now, the last thing that I want to show you. One, I can put my label. What happened there? Okay, what happened? Why can't I see what I just put there? It's in the wrong order. Yep, right click. Arrange, bring to front. Okay, now my words are in the front and I should be able to read it correctly. Okay, so we've talked about basic text, we talked about our straw, we talked about using our eraser tool to help us. Now let's talk about this orange. So if you look carefully and think a little bit, you'll notice that this orange is actually a half circle. So I'm just going to use my shape tools and draw a circle so that I can make this the correct shape easily without having to worry about making smooth curves with my pen tool. Okay, so here's my first circle. Again, you can use the arrows on your keyboard to move shapes around. I'm going to copy and paste. Whoops, cancel, not print. Copy and paste. And I'm going to make a second circle for the inside part here. All right, again, use my arrows. And then I'm going to use that eraser tool that I just learned about. So by selecting them both, go into your eraser. Again, I can use the Alt key to draw an eraser box in a straight line. And there we go. My shapes are now the correct half circle that I need really easily. Okay, I can again use my eyedropper. I'm not going to do that quite yet, but I'm going to show you how to draw these inside parts. If you really think about it, these are kind of like a triangle with a rounded end. So let's get our shape tools. You should know how to draw a triangle using your polygon tool. Hold Shift to draw a polygon, and then we're going to use this widget, the plus or minus on the right side if you've held Shift, to click and drag to make this into a triangle. Paying attention to where the point hits this bounding box. Notice there's a side where the base of the triangle is across the edge of the bounding box, and then there's a side where the point of the triangle hits the bounding box. We want this point to line up with the point of our orange. So I'm going to rotate, and it's not going to be a perfect triangle, right? This is not perfect. So let's resize this. You don't have to hold Shift. It's going to take a little bit of figuring to make it the correct shape, right? I'm going to try and line up the two edges, there and there, okay? You might have to mess with this a little bit to get it right. Now remember, we've got these little widgets that help us round the corners, so we're going to use those by clicking and dragging. I can use my corner widget and round this a little bit. All right. I can adjust. Notice mine's not perfect. You can work and make yours perfect. But if I draw an ellipse, I can shape build these things together. So let me adjust the size of this for a second, make it fit a little bit better. There we go. Now let's grab our ellipse tool, draw an ellipse, and I'm going to rotate it and place it here at the top. Notice this takes a little bit of time. If you want to draw this with the pen tool, you're welcome to. I know some of you struggle with that though and don't really like the pen tool. So if you don't really like the pen tool, well, think about it. How could you do it without it? This is one way. So by selecting both shapes, we can combine shapes just like we learned in our combined shapes practice. So holding Shift and clicking, and then I can use my shape builder tool right here to click and drag to combine them. Grab my eyedropper and select the correct color. I'm going to eyedrop these really quickly too. Okay. And there's my orange. You can copy and paste this, right? We can copy and paste and rotate to line this up. Okay. You have to fix it. Mine's not perfect. Okay. There we go. So those are just some of the things that students typically get stuck on, that they always ask about. How do I draw this orange? I'm stuck on the label. I'm stuck on the straw. Just remember, you know how to do all of these things. You just need to think about all the tools that we know about so far. Use them all. Use your shape tools. Use your shape builder tool. Use your eyedropper tool. Use your pen tool. Use the line segment tool. There's so many things in this program that will help you and make your life easier. Make sure you use them. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.